Mrs. Hanabusa is recognized for 60 minutes as a designee of the Minority Leader.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. You know, there are about now 11 of us who are considered freshmen on the Democratic side, and we are here today to share with everyone what we have learned. We hope that because we are freshmen, that we bring a different perspective on matters, that everyone might be able to see it from our eyes. And for that reason, we'd like to share what we've learned when in this last district work week and talking to our constituents about jobs, small business problems, and issues that face all of us. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to begin first by asking the gentlewoman from District 36 of California to share with us what she has heard. And I'd like to say that the gentlewoman from the District 36 of California is the most recent addition to what was originally the Noble Nine, but we are now the exquisite 11. With that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to bring a perspective of a brand new member of Congress. And last week, while I was in my district, I met with over 50 businesses who wanted to talk to me about what they felt Congress was either doing or not doing. And I met with them not to talk to them, but I met with them to listen to them. And I met with very small businesses, some that had 2 employees, to some other businesses who were considered small but had many more employees. And what they told me was this. These are tough times. They're having a tough time with our economy, but they still want to grow, and they still want to hire people. And we know that our small businesses in this country are the backbone of this economy, and we know that they are the ones that will be hiring people. They are the ones that will be getting this economy back up and running. They're going to be part of this great recovery, but they need help from the federal government. I asked them, what is it that you need? What is it that will keep you in business? What is it that will help you to grow and to hire people? And they told me there was a common theme, and they told me that it was their access to capital, which was part of the problem that they had. And they believed that our small business loans took a small mountain of paperwork to apply for. They felt like the requirements for these loans were so burdensome that they were not able to access capital. And they said if they could access this capital, they would grow. They would hire. And even in tough times, this is the American dream. This is the American spirit. They wondered, frankly, why Congress had worked so hard to bail out the billionaires on Wall Street. And they wondered, what was Congress doing to bail out the man and woman on Main Street that work so hard every day? So I told them I wanted to stay in touch with them. I told them that I would urge my colleagues to do something else that they wanted, and that was to pass the President's Jobs Act. They loved parts of this Jobs Act. They loved the fact that there was a tax credit there if they hired somebody who'd been unemployed for 6 months or longer. They loved the idea that in this jobs bill there was a tax credit for hiring our returning veterans. They liked the fact that we even went further and said there will be a larger, I think it's a $9,000 tax credit if you hire a veteran who's been wounded. Because we know when our veterans come home that they have a very difficult time re-entering society. They have a difficult time, frankly, re-entering their families. They have a hard time relating again to their husbands, to their wives, to their communities. And this jobs bill actually speaks to the plight of the veteran. The woman veteran, by the way, has one of the highest unemployment rates in this country. Colleagues, I think we should continue to fight for small businesses in this country. Let's give them what they need. Let's remove the barriers that are keeping them from growing, keeping them from hiring, and keeping them from being the catalyst to getting this economy back on track. Thank you very much. I yield my time.
Very much. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, My colleagues will be coming in as they return from their respective offices, but I'd like to share part of what I found when I was in district this past week. You know, I think the problem that we all have is that we're all creatures of the media, so we tend to think in 30-second sound bites, and I'm sure we all got trained by the best of them as to when you run for office, keep it short. Keep it short, and you tell everybody what they want to hear so they can pick it up on the 6 o'clock news. But you know, Mr. Speaker, when we do that, what we fail to do is we fail to recognize that people are not covered by one broad brush. The gentlewoman from California District 36 said it best when she said when she talked to small business, they want certain things because small businesses are not all alike. But there are things that they do want. They want, for example, the finances. What about Main Street? What about the tax credits? How would that affect their respective businesses? And that is what we all have to step back and think about. And that's why this time where we can go on and not have to worry about, you know, whether there's a camera there to get a 30-second soundbite gives us the opportunity to tell our constituents that we hear them and we know what they're saying. When I was in district, I met with one type of small business, and they were the construction industry. And quite honestly, when you talk about the construction industry, even that we just tend to say construction is we need to rebuild construction. But construction isn't as simple as just simply saying they all build roads or they all build airports. That's not true. When we do construction, we talk about construction, you have people who, for example, specialize in homes. And that's a definite kind of need. Their needs, for example, are regarding finances. Their needs are how healthy is FHA going to be? What are you going to do about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? What are you going to do to help foreclosures? They have very specific concerns where we may think, well, maybe what they're just concerned about is the ability to be able to build again. That's not it. They understand that in order for us to have a healthy economy, in order for us to have the environment in which they can then create the jobs and they can then be able to build those homes and people who have jobs can buy those homes, that we need to look at the total picture, and that's what we're referring to. So when we talk to our constituents and we report back to other members of Congress, we have to be very clear as to what we are hearing. They don't talk to us in general sound bites to get on the 6 o'clock news. What they talk to us about is to say, you know, in our specific industry, we have this problem, and what can you do to help us on this particular problem? They want to know, even to the point of saying, will, for example, credit unions be able to issue different kinds of loans? You know, we think of banks, we think of loans, but how many of us have stopped to listen to our constituencies and said, hey, what are you interested in what credit unions are allowed to do? Because to them, especially those who are smaller businesses, that's their lifeline. So they want to be sure that they can affect them and they can help them. So they want to know what we are doing in that process. And so when we talk to our constituencies and we listen to them, we must understand that they are not simply ones that we do with a broad brush. So in the construction group that I spoke to, many of them, of course, specialized in home building, and they were, of course, concerned about the whole gamut. The ability of people to buy a home, the ability of people to finance that home, the ability of people to then say, hey, we are going to have the jobs to qualify for the respective mortgages, because everyone, very few people are out there who can actually buy a home for cash. Any more than we as government can buy things for cash, people are borrowing. And in order for them to borrow, we must have a healthy financial institution that can lend that money out. So, Mr. Speaker, let's also look at where we are in terms of the constituencies. Like I said, small business isn't just small business. Small business isn't just you can't just say small business and cover everyone. You need to understand what kind of small business. I sit on a panel that was created in HASC And the question was, and it's on acquisitions, and the focus of there is small business. And I'm very honored to be part of that. And I'm very proud of the fact that we as the House is looking at how, when military spendings get cut, we are able to preserve the small businesses. How do we ensure them into the future? And we also have to recognize that the definition of small business differs for many of us. It's like a company that grosses no more than $7 or $8 million a year. To some, they probably hear that and they go, wow, that's not a small business, that's a big business. But every segment of what creates businesses in our economy, we have got to look at very seriously and understand what their respective needs are. Because if we fail to do that, if we fail to look at that, we are not going to be able to address this crisis. So as tempting as it is for all of us to ignore what it is that we are looking to or speaking to, and when we vote on these bills that are before us, we have to understand that simply because one segment of a business community says it's good, it doesn't mean that it's good for everyone. And that is what makes the challenge of what we respectively do. So back to construction. We said there are those who build homes, for example. There are also those who build commercial buildings, and they have a different challenge because their financing is also tied to how healthy the economy is, and it's also tied to the financial institutions and whether the financial institutions are out there lending the money. And that's all going to be tied to the whole issue of whether or not the economy is healthy. And many of those who build, quote, commercial buildings, for example, they too are small businesses. In addition to that, you have those major construction companies that do major infrastructure. And if you're going to talk about being able to get people back to work in large numbers, of course, we need to talk about that level of construction. But what does that level of construction normally need? To do large infrastructural projects, it needs government. It is government who's able to build or contribute to a state's ability to build roads, to build airport modernization, to improve harbors, or to basically look at highways and what we're going to do. You need government's role in that. And that is what the President has said. And that is what the President has emphasized, that he, in fact, is looking to infrastructure to be built and to say that will put people back to work. Because in the long run, we as a country benefit the most from that. And you may say, well, what does that have to do with small business? It has a lot to do with small business because no one company can do it all. When you look at how construction, for example, is done, you have a general contractor who usually serves in an administrative capacity, but all the respective work that may go into building whatever it may be, a freeway, a huge hotel, or homes, the other components of it are subcontractors who are small business. And each one of them hire a specific number of people, whether it be 2 or 3 or 20 or 30. If you have a huge pour of some sort, they are there. And we need to recognize that. And we need to understand that it is through them, through the hiring of the respective subcontractors that are small business, that we are then able to move this economy along. So it's like a situation of we start on the top, and to a large extent government has that role, and it filters down to get to the bottom line, which is to get people back to work.